welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you are watching us live on Facebook, thank you for that. If you're checking us out elsewhere, we do appreciate that as well. We upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We have audio and video versions there for you to check out. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please remember that Facebook does keep these shows live throughout the day, so you can go back and check them out at your leisure. Getting into your traffic this morning, starting to have some heavy delays at the 10-12 split if you're heading on I-12 westbound into Baton Rouge, so please keep that in mind. Causing delays back up to about Airline at this point, may extend further depending on the reason for the delay. I-12 is flowing otherwise with some minor on-ramp delays. 4H Club Road, River Road, and 190 are looking good so far. 64 into Central also looking pretty good. Greenville Springs with some minor delays already this morning. We're going to be looking at some school traffic as per usual. Some heavy delays outside of Live Oak High School on 16 and Denham Springs High School also on 16. You're going to be looking at some delays on Hatchell Lane as well. Heavy delays on Burgess and 190. Traffic around Walker High been pretty heavy as of late, so try to avoid the area if at all possible. It's currently 63 degrees. 85 degrees is your high today. 59 your overnight low. So one more day where it's going to get pretty warm, and then that temperature is going to drop off this evening. Going to look at a high tomorrow of 72 with a low overnight of about 49. So that cold weather's coming. Just got to get through one more day. It is going to be warm throughout the day today. Yesterday, we did sit down with Mr. William Scott Dykes, who is running for 21st Judicial District Court Judge. We had a second podcast with him, try to dive a little deeper in on his experience as an attorney, as well as what he's experienced on the campaign trail this year. You can check that out at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. Speaking of podcasts, we also got to sit down with Mr. Rob DeArmond, our sports editor here at the news, and talk to him a little bit about what's going on with the football season. We're going to try to start doing that weekly again like we did last year and the year before. 2 games coming up tonight, 3 games tomorrow. But you can go check that out. It will be live around noon today at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We talk all about where all 5 teams are and where they're looking to go. A couple of teams haven't quite got the start they wanted, and several teams have had to deal with things like hurricanes and COVID. So everybody's trying to get that experience in before district begins starting next week. So check that out. Again, it'll be live today around noon. www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. Want to remind folks that the LSU game that is supposed to be coming up Saturday, has been postponed to December 12th. The Tigers were supposed to go on the road to Gainesville to play Florida. Florida had about 20 players test positive for COVID-19 and completely shut down their football operations. They are expected to possibly get going within the next 10 days. However, that time period would have extended into the game time, and you have to have 53 scholarship players in order to field a team in SEC play. That was going to be very difficult with 20 people out and possibly more testing positive down the line. So the SEC elected to postpone that game. Again, LSU will play Florida at Gainesville December 12th. Halloween's coming up. We're barreling through October. We're actually just about halfway through. There are 31 days in October. Today is the 15th. So happy 15th, or midway through. The library, starting tomorrow, is going to have all sorts of fun and interesting Halloween activities leading up to the 31st. You can check out that schedule at www.livingstonparishnews.com or visit the library's website at mylpl.info. It'll all culminate in a few haunted houses and things like that on October 31st, so it's worth keeping an eye on. The Census Day Deadline is today. Of course, we discussed how the Trump administration won a lawsuit against the Census Bureau to have it shut down. It was supposed to run through October 31st. The Trump administration argued that the Census Bureau would not have enough time to tabulate the results, while the Census Bureau argued back that they had already kept up with most of the information. However, the Trump administration has won that lawsuit, and today is actually the deadline to fill out your census. You can go to mycensus.gov and try to get that filled out as quickly as possible. Louisiana currently has a 60.1% self-response rate. That's good for 47th nationally. Livingston Parish is at 61.3%, which is 13th statewide. And the city of Walker leads Livingston Parish with a 67.7% response rate. That is the number one response rate. Next closest is Denham Springs at 58.3%. So Walker definitely leading the way on that one. Getting into your COVID-19 statistics this morning, 173,121 cases, 5,495 deaths, 2,516,635 tests. 161,792 people have recovered. That's a great number. 582 are hospitalized on 64 ventilators. In Livingston Parish, 3,982 cases, 76 deaths on 43,201 tests. The Louisiana Senate has voted to freeze unemployment benefits at their current level with a max cap of roughly $7,700 a year as the Louisiana government tries to cope with the depleted Workforce Commission unemployment fund. That usually what happens when that gets to a certain level, it drops off and they apply what's called a trust fund tax to businesses, which would enhance what they have to pay. Unfortunately, for most businesses, that would equate to about 30% extra in unemployment tax per quarter. This Louisiana legislature is trying to avoid that situation at all costs and have been working with the both federal government and the Louisiana Workforce Commission to try to find other options. As of right now, they're going to borrow, that would be the state is going to borrow $233 million from the federal government. There's no plan on how to pay that back at this time, but it will at least keep that trust fund tax from not being applied. They're also going to take $115 million out of the state's CARES Act and put it in the fund. That'll give roughly $350 million to work from, as unemployment is on a steady decline, but still well above pre-COVID levels. They're trying to, of course, they're trying to avoid getting back down to this level again, as the unemployment trust fund started at about $1.2 billion in February, and of course has reached less than $100 million at this point. So they're hoping that unemployment continues to improve in the state. Dr. David Nabarro of the World Health Organization did come out in an interview and say that the WHO does not support lockdowns. The whole lockdown deal was supposed to be to flatten the curve, regroup, reassess your strategy, try to give healthcare workers a break, especially if they're exhausted, and of course, if you're nearing capacity on healthcare provisions. But it is expected that once things have gotten back to normal, you're supposed to ease back into it. Of course, there are a lot of people that would suggest that Louisiana is under lockdown, and in certain industries we are. And so it's interesting to see how the governor and the state will react to certain comments from the World Health Organization. And of course, the governor is following the directive of the CDC, as well as the White House Coronavirus Task Force, whom he consults before making any decisions regarding the COVID-19 restrictions in Louisiana. And they are, for the most part, behind him. So kind of a conflict here. In terms of some industries. Of course, others are beginning to open up as we move into phase 3. Excuse me. The House's deferred reaction, or excuse me, the House has deferred action. It is technically a reaction to COVID-19, but the House has deferred action on an emergency election plan at this time because they're afraid it will conflict with this year's emergency election plan for November 3rd. Of course, that went to court, and a judge, Shelley Dick, a federal court judge, did say that there has to be extended early voting periods as well as extended absentee ballot availability. As we know, early voting starting this Friday and October 16th, they're open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, except Sunday, through the 27th. So you're going to have plenty of time to early vote. It's a little extra time as compared to normal. So please keep that in mind. Please try to show up and early vote. But of course, there might be in the future some different ways they're going to handle election emergencies. Maybe less by full house and more by committee. So it's going to be interesting to see once early voting gets started and they can move forward with maybe establishing something like this if it comes out of the House and the Senate. Want to talk about these mitigation efforts real quick before we wrap up. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Wear a mask in public. It is a mandate. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others. Control your cough and sneezing with an elbow or a tissue. Don't touch your face, my favorite one. 50 or less to a gathering. And stay home if you're sick and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Want to remind folks there are delays at the 10-12 split on I-12 westbound, backed up just past Airline at this point. Expected if there is some sort of accident or stalled vehicle, those delays may extend back further. I-12 is flowing, however, past that point, and of course on-ramps having minor delays. 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190 are good, as well as 64 heading into Central. Greenville Springs experiencing some minor delays. School traffic, of course, starting to ramp up here at the 7:15 hour. Heavy delays in front of Live Oak High School, as well as Denham Springs High School. And, of course, heavy delays on Hatchell Lane and Denham Springs, where Denham Springs Elementary and Junior High kind of meet. And, of course, you are looking at some rough delays on Burgess Avenue and 190 in there around Walker High School. Try to avoid that area if at all possible. It is currently 64 degrees, 85 degrees your high today. Last day where it's going to be warm, it's going to start to cool off a little bit. 59 your overnight low. Pardon me. So 85 degrees. Your high today, 59, your overnight low, mix of clouds and sun. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Want to remind folks that we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page, which is free, coronavirus page, which is free, and a breaking news page, which is free as well. Again, we appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning.